How can it be that you fly off to the Amalfi Coast or wherever else you like to go on vacation and you eat like a pig for 2 weeks straight on holiday with wine, pasta, desserts, and you still come back home lighter? All right? Everyone, I think, has felt a version of this, either with your own body, like you ate more, you moved less, like back home, and you still lost some weight, or you've witnessed a friend in that same scenario. Also, for some others, of course, the opposite is true. They're gaining on vacation, but today, what we're doing is I walk you through the mechanism of how can it be that some people actually, especially with type 1 diabetes, lose weight on vacation while eating more and moving less than normal, and also why for others this is not the case and how this can be, because it kind of breaks every rule of weight loss, right? That we seem to know about, at least. So today I'll walk you through the mechanism behind that and like why you can lose weight on vacation eating more and moving less than normal, and also why it's not the case for everyone, plus how to get this effect back home to make sure you're losing and keeping off the weight also while you're working. All right, so first of all, let's be 100% clear here on the paradox real quick. Like, if we look at it, you broke every rule of weight loss that we know about out there, at least, right? But your body still rewarded you for this. So how can it be that that something like that happens? At least it should tell you somehow the rules are wrong, right? Something about the rules is off. And if we look at the calorie math, then with that kind of behavior, you should gain at least 3, 4, 5 kilograms on these 2 weeks of vacation if you're eating way more and just relaxing and not moving a lot, right? So somehow the models that we know or that we think we know about are missing some of the variables, all right? Now, let's dive right into the main driver here, which is your stress. What happens on vacation is a lot of times not even your plate and the food, but your nervous system, right? And winding down and relaxing, because the work stops, the pressure stops, the constant messages, emails, however you communicate at work, the pressure stops. And as a result of that, cortisol, your stress hormone, which makes you like throughout the day be aware and be awake, this drops throughout those first couple days on vacation or the first couple of weeks on vacation, all right? And the physiological background of why that leads to you losing weight is the following. Cortisol's job is, we could say, to mobilize energy resources, like get, amongst others, sugar in your bloodstream so your body can use it for energy, for oxygen transport, for creating energy physiologically, for moving your body, for all kinds of things, for your brain. So cortisol's job is to give you the energy, obviously, because you need to be awake after what I just walked you through. If you want to be alert, you need energy. So that's what cortisol does, right? And insulin does the opposite. So to an extent, these are opposing hormones, right? Because insulin gets sugar and fatty acids and other things from your bloodstream and puts them inside the cells in your body. So it puts it out of the bloodstream, okay? So it's like doing the opposite thing. Now, what happens obviously when cortisol goes up because you're more stressed and you have more pressure is that your body needs more insulin suddenly to do the same job of getting sugar, etc., out of your bloodstream, because cortisol is doing the opposite. It's, we could say, fighting it. So you need more insulin, and that's what we also classify as insulin resistance. And do you see also how, right, a lot of times we think of insulin resistance, and for most of you who maybe have heard of it before, and type 2 diabetes, because right, type 2 diabetes is like a severe insulin resistance. And if you're very resistant towards insulin, we always think of that as like you should eat less, you should move more, and these kind of things. But have you, like, if you just listen to the mechanism that I just described, a lot of the times it's the stress making the insulin resistance worse. You see? So of course, also your lifestyle factors and everything impact that, but the stress plays a huge role. So if you're now doing things, and if you're telling a person with type 2 diabetes to quote unquote improve their type 2 diabetes by giving them things that are stressing them, like too hard exercise, too little food, then obviously this goes the wrong way. Just a side note, right? Just a thought, because right, this should be obvious, right? But it's not, right? People are getting told that they should just eat less and move more. But now again, what happens is that you suddenly need more insulin. Insulin's job, as I said before, is to store. So it will also lead to you not just storing, like putting glucose in like glycogen storages, and so on and so forth. But also it will lead to you storing more fat, right? Because it will also put the fatty acids out of the bloodstream in the cells of your body. So it will lead to you storing more body fat. Now, that's why we say that insulin a lot of times leads to building fat and storing more fat, okay? And that's the mechanism behind it. If that cortisol now drops on vacation, also, of course, your body needs less insulin because it needs to not, quote unquote, fight it anymore. And therefore, your body will store less. All right? That's one of the main mechanisms. Of course, stress also impacts weight gain in other ways, like, for example, impacts your thyroid, impacts your gut, and so on and so forth, impacts your hunger cues. But this one is the main one, especially with type 1 diabetes, okay? And we're talking about what to do about it in a second. Then, of course, there's also another mechanism for example, the women that are actually losing weight on vacation because they're more active. Of course, what happens a lot of times is that we're doing sightseeing, we're doing some hikes, we're moving around, we are doing, I don't know, like some surfing, some paddle, some tennis, some golf, and we're active throughout the day while we're on vacation. And what happens there is we're increasing our NEAT. NEAT is just like the non-exercise related calorie burn, okay? And it actually makes up a lot of the calories that we're burning throughout the day, more than exercise itself. So if then you spend the whole day being active, 3, 4, 5 hours on your feet, then of course you're burning a lot of calories, and therefore you're losing weight. So that kind of obvious effect can also be there that we're sometimes maybe not thinking of because it's quote unquote just sightseeing. No, it's actually making a way bigger difference when it comes to the calorie burn throughout the day. That on that particular day, it makes a way bigger difference than exercise itself. So if you, in that period on vacation of like the 1 to 2 weeks, just moved a lot more, that this is something that you won't be able to replicate back home because you don't have the time to do sightseeing 5 hours of the day, right? And you also don't want to do that in your hometown, obviously. So yeah, this can also play a role. Then another thing that even if you're not moving more, helps you lose weight is your whole circadian rhythm, right? For example, you catch up on sleep for the first time. Like you have like several days or even weeks where you're sleeping 9, 10 hours and there's no alarm in the morning and you can like sleep through the night. It's like just a more chill lifestyle. And we know that improved sleep quality increases insulin sensitivity, and insulin sensitivity again is the same mechanism that I described before. The more sensitive you're toward insulin, the less insulin your body needs to do the same job, leading to you storing less fat. The other thing is that when you're having a chill morning and you're going out, you're like in a warm area, maybe Mediterranean Sea, if you're based in Europe as well, and then you're waking up and you're seeing the sun right away, right? This resets your circadian rhythm, as in cortisol levels going up in the morning, which means that you can also have an easier time falling asleep later at night then, because you were awake, naturally awake throughout the day. Okay, so this resets the internal clock, so to say. In other words, the sun, the sleep, this is just really helpful and playing into the same stress mechanism as well. Okay. Now, with type 1 diabetes, this effect of all of these things that I just mentioned is, of course, multiplied, because if you now need less insulin, you will inject less insulin. If you inject less insulin, knowing that the injected insulin leads to more body fat storage than the natural insulin from the pancreas for healthy people, this just multiplies the effect I just described. Okay, so the reduction in cortisol, potentially more movement, and then you needing less insulin or having an easier time managing everything because you're not spiking that quickly, will also then, right, be less of a storage signal in your body overall. Okay, now let's talk about for a moment why some other women tend to actually gain weight while they're on vacation. And that also really differs. So what I would like to distinguish is the style of vacation. If you're like the typical explorer, you like to see different kinds of things, and like every second day you're going to a different location, and then you're kind of trying to explore Thailand within 2 weeks, then right, obviously this is a completely different kind of vacation. But if you're just going somewhere like in an all-inclusive place, or you're chilling on the yacht for like 2 weeks in Italy, and you're just eating and laying in the sun, then this is like a different kind of vacation, obviously. So what happens a lot of times when the women that I work with come back heavier after vacation is that the trip is physiologically stressful. Doesn't mean that they don't enjoy it, right? That's not the case, but it's physiologically stressful. For example, the flights, we know this is stress, like packing your stuff and then relocating. If you're switching up the place that you're staying at, then having a broken routine. And if you're traveling around a lot, or the broken routine, if you're very sensitive to what, that can actually worsen your sleep on the other side as well, leading to a more blood sugar roller coaster because you're out of your regular routine. The blood sugar roller coaster impacts your sleep, and you're just annoyed of that. And then the stress physiologically can actually climb depending on what style of vacation again you have and how you react to that. And then the whole wine, pasta and dessert makes you go the wrong way, because suddenly you want to quote unquote enjoy and not think about it too much, and then you have like the random kind of food, but at the same time your stress is still up, and then of course this will not go in the right direction. So you can have like even the identical food, the opposite result, and the only variable for now, like the main variable that we discussed, is the stress and the steadiness, right? Your routine. So that's the most important thing, and it's really not about your willpower. Of course, if you have like goals, like you want to be a bodybuilder on the stage, which is the minority of my clients at least, then you will need willpower on vacation as well, right? Because you need to be 98% on track with what you want to do. But for most of you listening, if you want to have a healthy weight, you want to be fit, you want to feel toned, you want to feel good in your skin, or you even want visible abs, you don't need strictness to that kind of degree, okay? So the stress physiologically and how you react on vacation, this is the key differentiator. If you again compare like a exploration kind of holiday where you want to see a different city or different place every second day, and you're constantly switching things up, and it's like your body's on alert, whereas you're just like laying in the sun, having a good time, eating food and maybe listening to some music and swimming a bit in the pool, then this is a completely different kind of vacation, right? So that's what I would distinguish here. So if we wrap that up, the beach is not magic, doesn't make you magically lose weight. It's rather the surrounding, right? It's the surrounding of sun, it's the surrounding of good weather, of sleeping more, of having the pressure drop off, which is actually by far the biggest lever here. And of course, you won't be able to like have that same kind of scenario back home. But what we're doing in a second is reframing that, because if you reframe this properly, you will understand how you can actually get this similar mechanism back home. And it's definitely possible. That's what I'm doing with my clients, because again, like with everything that we talked about, the common denominator was not eating less, it was the stress, right? Of course, this will play a role, and some of you might have an issue with snacking too much, having too much fats and all of these things. But still, understanding this mechanism is so important, because it explains why some women, the same habits, will gain while others will lose on vacation, you see? So it's really important to understand. Now, what can you actually do? It's the most important point for today. What can you actually do back home to get the same mechanism and make sure that you're losing and keeping off weight in your day-to-day routine, and don't need to wait until your next summer holiday where you're laying in the sun to lose weight again, which of course is unrealistic. Otherwise, summer, losing some weight, and then winter, during Christmas, you're gaining back some weight. This won't get you anywhere, okay? So what we want to do is we don't want to think about lowering stress. Lowering stress doesn't make sense. The stress is there for a reason. Cortisol goes up for a reason. It's not random. It's not that you now decide, oh, I won't be stressed anymore. No, you have pressure at work, you have kids to take care of, you have responsibilities. Your body's alert for a reason. You should be alert, right? Lowering the stress would mean I don't care anymore, would mean losing the job and not taking care of your children properly. Doesn't lead you anywhere, right? Doesn't make sense. Now, what you want to do is you want to manage the stress better, because our body can handle stress, as in our adrenals, which is the tiny organ that builds these stress hormones amongst others. We can protect that. We can make sure that it's not fatiguing, that it's not burning out. We can make sure that we protect the body and make sure it can handle stress better. And I'll walk you through the mechanisms that will be absolutely crucial for that. Okay. Now, the first thing is that I want you to protect your evenings as much as possible, which means the last 2 hours of the day should be to wind down, which will then help you to sleep like you are on holiday, because now you are alert and stressed throughout the day, but at least you have dedicated the last part of the day to winding down, and therefore making sure you can have a good night's sleep, fall asleep quickly, sleep through the night, and wake up with high energy so that you're ready in the morning and not feeling like a zombie in the morning and having to force yourself to get out of bed. Okay? The second thing, and that the one that I just mentioned is a big one, of course, and what goes hand in hand with that is sleeping before midnight at least. Ideally sleeping before 11 p.m., ideally sleeping before the 10 p.m. But the second one that will be crucial is steadying your blood sugar throughout the day, because the blood sugar itself impacts stress. If it goes high, if it goes low, this is all stressors and inflammation for the body. So we want to protect that by steadying it through the day, which means every meal has protein, right? Every breakfast, lunch, dinner has protein. There's fiber, right, which all helps steady your blood sugar, reduce the spike. And throughout the day, having smaller carbohydrate portions and not these big portions like cereal in the morning, pasta for lunch. No, it's really hard to manage that. You will spike and then you will crash afterwards. This is stress to the body and stress emotionally, because you now need to watch it all the time and you're not feeling good and you're getting in the spiral of not being productive and then feeling bad about it. You know the deal, right? So I know I could tell like a lot of stories about that. I had that kind of routine for like so many years. I would say 7, 8, 9 years of like crushing, like spiking and crashing after every meal. And then for dinner, what you want to do to protect sleep, like I said, that was the first point, is you want to have dinner 4 hours before bed, because if you have dinner 4 hours before bed, the insulin, the bolus from dinner is not active in your body anymore, and then if something is off slightly, you can still correct it, but it's not like a crazy roller coaster when you actually want to go to sleep. Okay. Another thing to steady blood sugar will be being active. You won't have the time to do 3-4 hours of walking in the sun or doing sightseeing when you're back in your routine. But what you can do when you're back at work and in your regular routine is you can just have like tiny walks after your meals, right? This will also help reduce the blood sugar spike, and therefore make sure that you keep the energy up and you have less stress physiologically from the blood sugar up and down. Another thing is the strength training, and this one is a huge one, right? To manage your stress and make sure you're not gaining that much weight by the increased cortisol levels, you should train like a busy person. You don't strength train with the programs that you get from the gym where you're going to failure in every single round and doing 1 hour of like every single machine in the gym. No, you're focusing on the things that are absolutely crucial, that will have the biggest bang for your buck, that will have the best lever for you to progress, and that is finding out what is your weak link, working on that. And you don't need to do every single muscle group and every single training program every single week. No, you focus on the absolute essentials, do 40-minute sessions, not more than that, and therefore you will have a way easier time managing blood sugar and stress, and therefore also sleep. Huge game changer. Okay, for that, by the way, if you want to have a start, right, I have a general training protocol for type 1 diabetics to stabilize blood sugar, improve insulin sensitivity, and manage stress better. That is ready. That is not tailored to your specific weak link, but it is based off of women that are working at a desk. And then if you're working at a desk, you will have more or less specific problems that need some work when it comes to posture and mobility because of what you're doing all day. And that's the ones that are tackled there. Of course, it's not tailored to you individually, but it's a really great start. So you can send me the word protocol via Instagram, and then I'll send over that protocol that you can go try, which would be an amazing start to improve insulin sensitivity and do this in a way where you're managing stress properly. The next thing, that's coming down to what I said earlier, with having tinier portions of carbs through the day, have real food, which means having protein, which means having tinier portions of carbohydrates throughout the day. At night you can have a bit more, and making sure that you eat more of the right things in most cases, which is healthy fats, which is proteins, which is carbs that don't make you like blood sugar go crazy with, for example, like cereal. And these will be the most important things for you to manage stress, stabilize blood sugar, improve your quality of sleep, and make this a lasting thing and get this vacation weight loss miracle effect back home. Okay, and that's actually what my clients say when they work with me. They say like, what are we doing here? It feels like a fat loss switch, or it feels like it's unfair. Or the comments I get a lot of times when clients work with me, like the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, and they're losing some weight by actually not doing more than before, but doing less than before, is that they feel like it feels way too simple to actually be true, because what we're sold in the internet is like having to weigh everything, count everything, be in a calorie deficit, eat 1,700 calories as a woman, or even 1,400. I've heard a lot of times, which is just ridiculous or crazy. And therefore we're all thinking it's like so complicated, but no, it's like about managing your stress first of all, and then making sure you're going the next steps. But these are the absolute basics, right? If you don't do these things, then you don't need to think about anything else for now. Okay. Now, I'll give you one more client example, which is a client, her name is Sita, with type 2 diabetes. She came to me, also has had that for quite a long time and tried all kinds of things before, like low carb and you name it. Now, with her, I actually also implemented these simple rules that I just walk you through, and she got her A1C from 6.7 to 6.1, and the 6.1 was from her glucose monitor. So that one is actually higher than if you test it with the blood. So on average, it's like 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 points. So her A1C should be now in the 5.7 range if she tested with her blood, which is not even the pre-diabetic range anymore. I think pre-diabetic range starts at 5.7, 5.8. So she actually managed that within 6 weeks by implementing these simple rules. She lost weight even though it wasn't even her goal, and she now also, that went hand in hand. That's the first thing that actually happened. She got rid of her 5 p.m. slump, where she wouldn't be able to do her freelance work in the afternoon anymore, because she was so tired after her regular 40-hour job. Okay, so that was how we got her there. Now her time in range is 90+% even when she's traveling, and as you can imagine, that's a big lifestyle change in getting back her quality of life. So this is just one example, and I'm doing that with every single client that I'm working with. In her case, type 2 diabetes, but of course with type 1 diabetes, that's even more important. Now, if we wrap that up, the vacation that you did not break the rules of your body and weight loss. It actually revealed what the actual rules are, which is that stress management and hormones need to be taken into account when it comes to losing weight. And therefore, the most important things will be improving blood sugar management, sleep, and making sure that the training is stress and blood sugar friendly, so that then it doesn't sabotage your weight loss down the road. Again, send me the word protocol if you want to have a proper training routine that helps you manage stress and steady blood sugar and improving insulin sensitivity. And otherwise, scroll up, subscribe to the podcast, give me a rating. If you liked any of this would mean the world to me, by the way. And otherwise, I'm looking forward to the next episode.